And happy 4th of July weekend. We have a good citizenship theme in today's show. Citizens exercising their rights in the Arizona Constitution to try to block a school voucher law. Our citizen legislators leading the way in planning the first constitutional convention in more than 200 years. And we're celebrating a new citizen's birthday. But first, State Representative Randy Freese is best known as the emergency room doctor who helped save Congresswoman Gabby Giffords' life after the Tucson shootings. Now he's a Democratic lawmaker from Tucson, and last week he led doctors in a protest of the U.S. Senate's ultimately doomed Obamacare repeal. Freese is also deciding whether to run for the U.S. Senate. Representative and Dr. Randy Freese, welcome to Sunday Square Off.
Thank you, Bram.
Good to see you again. So this is your third year at the legislature. Are you still working as an ER doctor?
Yes, I'm still working. I'm a trauma surgeon, so I'm actually a trained surgeon. I work in the ER a lot because I respond to emergencies and traumas and things like that, yes. All
right, now you've said you're considering a run for the Senate next year. You might have just a few months to decide. Why would you want to be a senator?
It's a matter of doing what I think is best for Arizona, and making sure that Arizona is well represented, not just factions of Arizona, but someone who can represent a broad swath of Arizonans. And healthcare is a big issue, public safety is another big issue. I think we can do much better.
So what tells us, your voting record, anything else, that you're that kind of bipartisan, would be that kind of bipartisan senator?
Well, you know, I like to work across the aisle. I like to talk to people. I dig deeply into the issues. I raise a lot of questions on the floor, and I get along well with my colleagues. And I think that's the first place to start when you're talking about bipartisanship is trust, and then you can move on from there to compromise and negotiation.
All right, now Mark Kelly told me last spring that he and Gabby Giffords were looking at taking on Republican Senator Jeff Flake, who they've considered a friend but who has not voted with them on gun safety bills. Here's what Mark Kelly told me last spring when I interviewed him.
We certainly take a close look at what our legislative priorities were, who we couldn't convince that this is the right thing to do, not only for the American people, but for the constituents in their state. We look at that, and I will guarantee you we'll look at his race.
100%, he said, they're going to look at this race, meaning they will pour money into this race. What kind of encouragement have Mark Kelly and Gabby Giffords given you about a possible Senate run?
Well, certainly I've spoken to them. They're certainly aware.
I see that tight smile there.
They're aware of my my consideration. They were one of the first people I called, of course, and their support, not only money, but their encouragement and support is very worthwhile to me. And I look for the guidance. I look for their advice.
So have they encouraged you to do this?
Yes, I'm certainly getting some encouragement from not only them but others.
All right, let's move on to the Obamacare issue right now. Pima County, there's just one insurer there for Obamacare right now. Am I correct?
Sure, that's what's happening across the country.
So how's that working out, and how would you fix it?
Well, you know, it's not working out well, but that's not the way Obamacare was designed. The Affordable Care Act had several provisions that yet haven't been put through because of the issues with the fights over trying to repeal for the past 7 years. So how do you fix that problem? Well, I think one of the ways to fix it is to encourage people to go to the exchanges to get their health care insurance. Americans are very used to having their health care provided from their employer. Small businesses, however, don't have to do that. If we can somehow encourage or think outside of the box and somehow get big companies to maybe increase someone's salary but give them the option to go into the exchanges, somehow encourage people to go to the exchanges, then we'll have a more robust exchange. We'll have an infusion of young, healthy people in the exchanges. That'll bring costs down. Insurers will want to come into the exchanges and offer more products. So we have to think outside of the box.
In the current environment, President Trump, Republican-controlled Congress, can that happen?
Well, you know, there's a lot of gridlock in Washington, and it happens when the Democrats are in control, and that's because everything is political, and we really need to just put the politics aside and say, I've got elected for this 2-year term, I've got elected for the 6-year term if I'm a senator, let's get some work done. Let's stop worrying about the next re-election, and let's put out some good policy that solves problems for Americans.
You're a Navy veteran.
Yes, I am.
Veterans are a big issue here. Veterans issues are big here in Arizona. The School Choice program that was introduced by Republicans gives veterans more choice going to providers outside the Veterans Affairs Network. How well is that working?
Well, You know, veterans care here in Arizona, specifically Phoenix, has had its problems. I think we need to be very careful about how we take a look at solutions. I think one of the solutions is you kind of get ingrained into the same thing. The same type of care is being provided. The same, I mean, I remember I worked at a VA in my residency. There was long waiting lists to get into clinics, and then we had clinics for 4 hours straight because the clinic was so full. We got to start addressing problems like that. The providers, the type of provider that works at the VA, and the efficiency.
Do you support sticking with a VA network as opposed to going out of network to choice?
No, I think we have to have a hybrid. I think that certainly VA is not everywhere. And if you are not in a convenient area for a VA, yes, absolutely, you should have some choice.
All right, when are you going to decide on a Senate run? How soon?
In the next couple months. I'm still doing a lot of talking and getting some feedback.
All right, Dr. and Representative Randy Freese.
Thank you, Brad.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
And when we come back on this 4th of July weekend, there's talk in the air of a constitutional convention. I'll talk to the Arizona lawmaker leading the way. Plus, Arizona teachers and parents are racing the clock to put a challenge to the school voucher law on the ballot. We'll get an update on how they're doing. Stay with us.